Shall we just make this video black and white?
That'll be very thematically appropriate. Yes, let's do that. If there are two things people know about Stanley Kubrick, it's that 1, his films are pretty good, and 2, he was a perfectionist who micromanaged almost every aspect of his films. This latter point is perhaps no better proven than by that time Stanley Kubrick insisted upon putting something that was bright green into a movie that was filmed in black and white.
So what movie are we talking about?
We are, of course, talking about, arguably, Kubrick's most famous film, Dr. Strangelove, which is a satirical look at the Cold War and holds the record for being the film most often parodied by The Simpsons. Before we move on, Nisha, I can't mention The Simpsons without talking about some fucking Simpsons. So, what is your favourite film parody moment from The Simpsons? Because I have some very strong feelings about this one.
Well, we have to mention Pulp Fiction.
Oh yeah, because they made an entire episode, 22 short stories about Springfield, which is so obvious a reference to Pulp Fiction. They even put in the Royale with cheese argument with Chief Wiggum talking about going to a McDonald's or something. No, I think it's Lou, the police officer. He talks about going to McDonald's and goes, oh, so what do they call a Krusty Burger? They call it a quarter pounder with cheese. Oh, okay. It's so good.
You know the funniest thing, though? It's the little differences.
Example.
And while that is a spectacularly strong choice, I think it's edged out ever so slightly by, oddly enough, another Kubrick homage, and that's the Shining episode, or as it's put in The Simpsons, the Shinning.
You've got the shinning.
You mean shining?
Shh, you want to get sued?
Because that episode does one of my favourite things in animation, that is condense the plot of a 2-hour movie into a 10-minute, short, and still keep all of the same elements and story beats. Obviously, The Simpsons do it fantastically, but I have to give big props to the big daddy of them all, and that is the Kill the Wabbit. The Bugs Bunny short, with the famous Kill the Wabbit, is an entire 3-hour opera condensed into 5 minutes.
Kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit.
Kill the wabbit?
People at the time I can't believe you managed to condense a 3-hour fucking opera into 5 minutes and it still makes sense. And that's the beauty of animation to me. Because you couldn't do that with live action, and also why early Simpsons and early, Merry Melodies was so fucking good. Oh god, that episode.
So obviously it's a black and white film.
Yeah, it's entirely in black and white. There is no colour whatsoever in this movie. We're not talking about Schindler's List type deal here.
So what screen?
That would be the war room table that the leaders of the world are talking at during the famous war room scene where the leaders of the world just casually discuss nuking the fuck out of one another.
You bully, you
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
And Kubrick absolutely insisted that the surface of that table be green, because he wanted to invoke imagery of a poker table, and the idea there is it's the leaders of the world playing games with the lives of millions. Obviously, it's the scene is in black and fucking white, and someone pointed this out to Kubrick and said, do we really need to make it green if it's going to be in black and white? Will the audience really know or give a shit? And Kubrick turned to this, this peon, this person questioning his vision, just looked them dead in the eye and said, no, the audience won't know, but the actors will. And was never questioned again. It's like, oh, I'd imagine having the balls to step to Stanley fucking Kubrick, question his vision and being shut down that thoroughly. Before we move on, this story actually reminds me a lot of, and bear with me here folks at home, the original Addams Family series that was filmed in black and white, because do you know what colour that house actually was, Nisha?
Wasn't it bright pink?
It was bright fucking pink, because they went, okay, it's going to be in black and white so no one can see it, and they realised that pink looked best in black and white. So obviously if they made the house look like you expect the Addams Family house to look like, but lots of dark colours there, it wouldn't really work in a black and white show because it'd be too dark.
Yeah.
So their entire house is bright fucking pink. And I love that element of filmmaking, the stuff that looks stupid behind the scenes but looks good on screen. A good example we can use right now is the green screen behind me. Because the purpose of the green screen, isn't it, is because it's not a colour that's present in flesh tones, is it? Is
Yeah,
that the reason for it?
it's easy to key out because it's like if you use like red or anything, you've obviously got
Yeah, people are
it
pink.
in your skin, so it'd be harder to key. Whereas green is just
Yeah, it's because
completely opposite.
Unless obviously you happen to have just green
Yeah.
tattooed on your body, or wear
You'll
a
wear-
green T-shirt specifically designed to fuck with the green screen. And I know, again, bear with me here. This reminds me of The Predator, because The Predator obviously is filmed in a jungle.
Yeah.
What colour are jungles? They're primarily green. And initially, what they did is they got Jean-Claude Van Damme and put him in a fucking bright red lobster suit. Just obviously the invisibility effect for the Predator. They said, okay, we'll make it red. It's really easy to key red out of a green background. And according to a rumour, Jean-Claude Van Damme thought the Predator was going to be this weird rubbery lobster costume and dropped out because it looked so stupid. And there's behind the scenes footage of him just running around the jungle looking like those dancing lobsters from the Amanda show.
He thought this was actually the real look of the monster in the movie. And he goes, I hate this. I look like a superhero.
And just Jean-Claude Van Damme's like, this is too stupid, I can't do this. So they got Stan Winston to make a cooler Predator. The thing is though, Nisha, we're not quite done with Dr. Strangelove yet, because as you can imagine, given Kubrick's reputation as a perfectionist, his bizarre, request didn't stop at make this table green in a black and white movie.
So you're saying he did this in other parts of the film as well?
Yes, the most notable one, or at least the funniest one to me, is an interior shot of a B-52 Stratofortress bomber, a plane that was, at the time, classified. So obviously, the Air Force told Kubrick, you are not allowed to come and film on one of these fucking planes. No way, not on our Nelly. So what he did instead, he managed to track down a single photograph that was in, that was publicly available of the interior of such a plane. And then what he did is he managed to wrangle access to a B-29 bomber, which the B-52 was based on. And from this, his obviously set designers were able to extrapolate what a B-52 Stratofortress interior would look like. And it ended up being so accurate that actual people who flew one of those things watching the film described it as absolutely perfect. And officials from the government were reportedly surprised when they realised that Kubrick had somehow managed to guess exactly where the B-52's black box was located, a piece of information that was highly classified at the time. And they were genuinely thinking that he'd hired spies to figure it out. Or that it was like some kind of Russian black. Remember the height of the Cold War? And as you can imagine, Kubrick was a little suspicious that his set dressers had somehow, inexplicably, guessed exactly where a B-52's black box was located, and he seriously suspected for a time that they had actually broken into a military base to figure out where all that stuff was located. And I don't know what's funnier, that the crew guessed and got it right, or that in Kubrick's head, his crew were so scared of him, they risked going to prison for 20 years to get it right. Just think about that. Like he said, oh yeah, maybe they broke into somewhere. It's like, really? They're going to risk like 20 years in federal prison to avoid upsetting you? How terrifying a man are you? And then I remember what Stanley Kubrick looked like and went, oh yeah, that's understandable. Okay, so since it's kind of been the topic of today's video, let's, for the end of this one, discuss little details in movies they didn't have to put in, but you're glad that they did. And is there one in particular that you want to kick us off with, or should I start with my example?
Well, the one that comes to mind is in How to Train Your Dragon.
Which one?
Especially in the second one, where Hiccup is, I think he's 20 years old, and then they've like...
Yeah, I can see, yeah. Nisha's
stubble.
doing this with her hands. It's the Peach Fuzz tech.
Yeah.
And which in the third one was so distracting when you're watching it on a big screen. We watched it in the cinema.
Yeah.
And just every time you have a close-up of his face, it's like, you can see every individual follicle on this man's face. And you can see the little bits of Peach Fuzz coming through. Like, oh, why did they invest millions of dollars in this?
Well, they do that in a lot of animated films. They just put in little details. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure like the older characters probably had wrinkles. And...
Yeah, we've discussed before The Incredibles, like Violet's hair. They invented a new kind of CGI to do it. And there's another moment in that film that I don't think gets as much play, but it's where Mr. Incredible puts his hand through his costume. There's a bullet hole in it.
Yeah.
And at the time, the technology to realise that effect did not exist. And when obviously it was insisted upon, the animators reported just went, oh, for fuck's sake. They didn't know how to do it. And obviously they did, and it looks fantastic. But nobody notices that, except for obviously people who either, like myself, have researched it and know how difficult it was, or other animators who just went, fucking hell, mate, how'd you manage that? My example's a little bit different, and it's a thing they added that they didn't need to, that I think just adds to the story. And it's in Pacific Rim, where they're in, I think it's Hong Kong. I forget which part, but they're basically in the city, and it's like Gypsy Danger strolling out to fuck up the kaiju. And it shows it like walking down the street like 10 men. It's like, and it shows it from a low angle, so like, get the power shot, and there's a bridge in its way. And in any other film by any other director, Gypsy Danger would plough straight through that fucking bridge, just like, the CGI spectacle of like, no. In the film, it steps over the bridge on its way to go fight the thing, even though every step it takes is destroying cars and roads. And I went, I appreciate that, because the purpose of the Jaegers, ostensibly in the film, is to protect life and ensure that help can get where it's needed after the kaiju have been taken care of. The fact it notices a bridge and steps over, it's like, of course you want to keep a bridge thing. Roads, you can repave a road. Rebuilding a bridge is a ball ache. I just like that.
That's
and then you go to Pacific Rim 2, where in the final fight scene, the Jaegers destroy more of the city that the kaiju do, while cheering as they fire rocket launchers into big buildings. It's like, oh man, you had it so good. It was such, that little thing, that moment, just like, yeah, it's a big dumb action movie where robots fight monsters, but the fact they put that detail in makes me think they cared more than not at all.
Yeah.
And I always appreciate that. And then just like the next one, like I said, they just destroy half the fucking city while cheering and celebrating like jackasses. It's like, yay!